Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Last time we left off, we were ready to deploy Microsoft SharePoint Server. However, with one little caveat is that for whatever reason, when the prerequisites deployed, I was not able to access SQL Server onto the localhost. Therefore, I went and I spun up a separate virtual machine, which is going to be our independent Microsoft SQL Server. Here's how we're going to do it. For this purpose, like I mentioned, I spun up a separate virtual machine, and it's still Windows Server 2019, as you can see in here. So there it is. It's Windows Server 2019, so it's nothing special. It is still not activated because I am using it in trial mode, and the prerequisite software that we're going to be installing is Microsoft SQL Server 2019. You guys can get the evaluation version off of Microsoft servers, mount the ISO, run as administrator, and just follow the wizard. It is taking a little bit slower because I am still on hard drives and not SSDs. Whenever I can afford to, I will upgrade to SSDs. But for the moment, we are stuck on slow hard drives. So, when the auto start for the setup shows, you have planning, installation, maintenance, tools, blah blah blah. Click on the installation submenu, and then new SQL Server standalone installation or add features to an existing installation. We are going to be deploying a new SQL Server. You can go ahead and minimize it if you want. Make sure you accept the terms. Click on next. And it's going to do a just general prerequisites for your system if it meets all of the requirements. So for Windows Firewall, the reason why you would be getting a warning over here is just a little a reminder telling you that if you want to have remote access to the server, you need to enable through your Windows Firewall port number 1433, so that data can come and go from this server. We are going to do that after the installation. The only thing that we want from the feature section is the database engine services. So go ahead, select that, click on next. Under features, leave it at default instance, and it's going to automatically name the instance, and then click on next. Under server configuration, leave it as the default, and then click on next. Under database engine configuration, there's two things that you need to do. Number one is select mixed mode, so SQL Server authentication and Windows authentication, and create a password that the SA account is going to be using. So for me, it's going to be pass123 exclamation point, pass123 exclamation point. And under the SQL Server administrators, click on add current users, which is going to add the domain administrator, and then you're also going to add the local machine administrator as well. Oh, it doesn't want to find it? Perfect. So if it doesn't find it, don't worry about it. As long as you have a domain administrator pointed as the server administrator, that's all you really need. Normally, if you would be installing it under the local user, it's a good idea to have the local user as well as a SQL administrator. And then go ahead and click on next. Under the ready to install, just over here, so go ahead and click on install. And for the time being, I'm going to skip the installation, and I'll see you under the complete step. Once your installation is successful and finished, you're going to see the status of all the sequence succeeded, or if there's a fail, you can go ahead and address it. But in our scenario, it is all done, it is complete. You can go ahead and click on close. Now, for the management of the database itself and how we're going to be interfacing with the server, we're going to have to go back into the little splash screen that's opened up, and we're going to click on Install SQL Server Management Tools. What that button is going to do is it's going to open a page with the destination site learn.microsoft.com, and it's going to be titled Download SQL Server Management Studio. So just go ahead and scroll down until you see Download SSMS in black bold letters and the link underneath it. Go ahead and click on that. For me, it has already downloaded, and go ahead, open the file and install it. Once the setup file loads, it's just basically following the installation wizard for a click of a button and letting it do its thing. I will see you guys once the setup is complete. So far, everything is going good. Management Studio has completed successfully. Two more things that we need to do before we move back to our SharePoint server. Number one is we are going to create our database. So go ahead and open Management Studio, and we're going to log in to the SQL server. It takes a minute. Quite literally, it takes a minute, and maybe then some. There we go. So, under Windows Authentication, we are just going to select SQL Server Authentication, because we don't want to authenticate with Windows. Although, when we added the administrator user, the purpose for it was so that we can authenticate with Windows. However, for this purpose, we are going to be authenticating through the SQL Server. Our login is going to be SA, and the password is whatever we set it at. For me, it's going to be pass123 exclamation point. When the menu finally populates, you are going to expand databases and right click on it and click new database. Go ahead and create a database with the default values during the database creation wizard. And the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to allow port number 1433 through our firewall. Where did it go? There you are. So Windows firewall. Instead of allowing an app, what I would suggest you guys to do is allow a port. Sorry, just a second, please. Okay, there we are. Under inbound rules, we're going to create a new rule. And we're going to define port, TCP, and port 1433. We're going to allow the connection under all three firewalls. And we're going to say MSSQL remote port. Stop it. And under outbound rules, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to define a port, TCP number 1433. We're going to allow the connection under all three firewalls, and we're going to call it something comprehensive. And we are done under the MS SQL Server. We are finally prepared to go back to our SharePoint server. Under the SharePoint server, we are going to restart the configuration setup that we did at the end of the last video. And essentially, we're just going to run through the configuration wizard. I think it was products configuration wizard. I don't remember. Yes, I know. You're complaining. So it does take a little bit to get it started, but once it does get started, I'll reactivate the recording. Oh, never mind. We're good. So it is the SharePoint products configuration. So let's go and just run through the setup. This warning window basically tells you that once you're done with the setup, you're just going to have to restart a couple of services. So you're going to acknowledge that, and we're going to click on next. We want to create a new server farm. Database server is, I hope you took your server IP. For me, it's this, and my database, it's whatever you create it to be. Under the authentication method, oh, darn it. Okay, so database. Okay, so it just needs Latin general. Hold on, I gotta let CIAS. Okay, hold on. Here's how to fix that problem. So I had to delete the database and recreate it, and under the options subtab of the database creation wizard, the collation is the first option. So it wants Latin 1. So oh, I can't do it that way. So I have to actually look for it. Latin 1 general, and then CIAS CIAS KSWS. So this one right here. Just make sure that you don't rush through creating the database like I did and having to go back and recreate it, and then just click on OK to have the database created. Now we are back in the SharePoint server. Just a second so that I can orient myself. And we can close this error, and we can go ahead and click next again. And now it's going to accept our input for the server setup. So this is kind of, the way I understand it is like the Active Directory DRSM password, which is basically the master control password of the whole instance, and it's used to add additional servers. Sorry. So for me, because this is a test environment, I'm going to go ahead and do something very easy so that I don't have to worry about it. But for you, if you are deploying this in a production at home, wherever it is, make sure that you use a somewhat or severely complicated password so that your server is secure and protected against brute force techniques. Under here, let me hold on. It is a single server farm. These are all single options that you can select. For us, we're just deploying one SharePoint server. Therefore, it is a single server farm. Go ahead and select the special role. Click on next. Each role requires more or less a dedicated virtual machine according to the role that is going to be performing. But because in our scenario, we're only deploying one server for this use case scenario in demonstration environment, we're only going to select a single server and we're going to click on next. For administration purposes and administration management, you can go ahead and select you can add the check mark in the box and give it a managed port that you know. Otherwise, the application chooses randomly between 1 and 65,535. Good luck hunting that one. And for security policy, you do have the option between Kerberos and NTLM. NTLM is the default authentication with Windows Active Directory domains. However, not NTLM. However, Kerberos offers additional protection by doing double authentication, both user and I think it was connection, and user and network service. So kind of like user and domain, which it's more secure, yes, but it does require additional configuration. Again, for our use case scenario, we're just gonna go with the default NTLM and we're gonna go click on next. And just remember that our essential administration URL is 33040. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and copy that so that I don't get lost afterwards. And we're gonna click on next and we're gonna let it complete its job. And now the process is complete. Keep in mind that during my observation part of the process, steps 3 and 7 took approximately 25 to 30 minutes each. So depending on your machine specifications, it could take upwards to an hour, maybe upwards of an hour. Just keep an open mind. That is all I'm saying. So we are finished. Let's go ahead and open the web page to our SharePoint server. It does take a little bit of time. Please be patient. Now, if you remember what it was asking us for, it was asking us for a password, and now it wants a username. Okay, I'm kind of at a loss here. Let's try this. Let's see if it's going to take it. Yes, okay. So for the first time, when you're going to be logging into the administrative web page, you want to do it with the domain administrator account. So if you installed it with administrator, you want to log in with administrator, and then the password is going to be the domain administrator password. As you can see, I am logged in under the SharePoint server with the domain administrator, and the password was the password for the domain administrator account. In my scenario, it's pass123. In yours, it could be something else. So let's go ahead and start the wizard, and that's probably going to be the end of the video. We're gonna probably go with everything default. We're gonna add requests just for funsies. And I mean, I'll be honest with you guys, this is the first time that I'm actually setting up SharePoint from the ground up. My knowledge for SharePoint itself, during the installation of SharePoint itself, it's kind of lacking, but for the prerequisites that are around SharePoint, so domain name, networking, setting up MySQL, or sorry, not MySQL, but Microsoft SQL Server, remote access to Microsoft SQL Server, so on and so forth. It's fairly easy to me. I have actually, this is one of the first times that I'm actually setting up SharePoint from the ground up. So you guys are learning this just as quickly as I am. And of course, the reason why it's taking as long as it is, it's because it is actually doing stuff on the SharePoint server itself. So don't think that the web page is just being slow for being slow purposes. And as such, the SharePoint server is finally complete, ready for configuration and use application. That being said, thank you for joining me on the completion of this video. I hope that by walking through with me and setting up SharePoint, you kind of you collected an idea of how to do it in the future, and with this knowledge you can start deploying it in a virtual environment and potentially reach a situation where you can have it in a real world scenario. Thank you for watching this video, and as a final thank you to everybody, I just saw that today the channel reached 552 subscribers. Thank you so very much for watching, for subscribing. Please continue to support the channel. Your viewership and assistance goes a very long way. I'll see you all in the next one.